There have been some pretty awesome announcements regarding the future of forests and biodiversity in BC lately, in what seems to be maybe the first real departure from the government's long trend of pandering to the forestry industry since its beginning, which is pretty trippy to see, though the work is still far from over. So first, the BC government announced $300 million in conservation funding for First Nations to help form Indigenous protected and conserved areas and establish alternative revenue streams to reduce reliance on old-growth logging. This funding is made up half of government funds and half matching funds from private charitable sources, and while it isn't exclusively set up to protect old-growth forests, it does create lots of opportunity for First Nations to transition away from resource extraction and turn forests into tribal parks, food gardens, or other sources of income, which is really, really awesome. Then, towards the end of the week, they announced a new nature agreement between the federal government, the province of BC, and the Assembly of First Nations, which reallocates $1 billion of government spending to help protect ecosystems in order to meet their goals of conserving 30% of BC's land and water ecosystems by 2030. With roughly 15% conserved right now and less than 7 years left to meet this target, this is going to be a huge help in kickstarting these programs, and it's also really awesome to see First Nations represented as an equal partner alongside the federal and provincial governments. There is a slight bit of hypocrisy to the announcement, though, as it comes just a few weeks after the federal government decided to not enforce the federal species at risk emergency order that would have stopped old-growth logging to protect the last two individual northern spotted owls in the province, all because the BC government had lobbied and asked them not to, citing that it would negatively impact the forestry industry. But hey, that was 3 weeks ago. Maybe things have changed. So while these announcements are a step in the right direction, at this point, it's all just talk, and logging and habitat destruction continues to happen right now with no immediate end in sight. In order for real change to occur, the government needs to continue enacting all 14 of the recommendations from their own strategic review that they committed to over 3 years ago. We need to establish rigorous ecological-based management targets for forestry instead of the timber-based ones we currently have, as well as changes to the Forestry Practices Code that is ecosystem-based and up to date with the science of today, in addition to strict enforcement of endangered species regulations that actually protects them, even if it isn't in the best interest of companies or their shareholders. Though progress is slow, it is really cool to see the government actually move in a way that addresses the demands of the people over industry here, and now is the time for them to really stick to their word and come through on both their biodiversity and forestry industry reform promises. So give David Eby and the BC NDP a call at 250-387-1715 to congratulate them on the actions they've taken so far and encourage them to see it through for a better BC tomorrow.